So this is Daf Tzadi Beis Amud Aleph. And the Mishnah had said a difference if a woman who heard that her husband died, if she got married with Bezdin or without Bezdin. That means there were Eid Echad, that she needed Bezdin's permission, or she had two Eidim. That's even better. But the Mishnah spoke about being Chayv Korban. Means she had relations with a man that she was married with. Not my she was a married woman in either case. If she had two Eidim or one Eidim, my she was a married woman and she had relations with a man. So she should be Chayv Korban. And the Mishnah goes into the point about Chayv Korban, that sometimes if you rely on the Bezdin, it could be that you put it from a Korban. The Bezdin brings a Korban. If it was most of Am Yisrael that made a mistake, that's called the Parah Lamdova or Chatas Hakol. But if there wasn't most of Bezdin, most of Am Yisrael made a mistake, that the Yochid Shasa by Ros Bezdin is Pater. Our Mishnah is going like that if a Yochid did, not the Tzibur, a Yochid did according to Bezdin's Psak, so he's not Chayv Korban. But that the Mishnah says it depends. If there was only one aid, then it means you did it with Bezdin's permission. If you had two aidim, so you didn't do it with Bezdin's permission, you did it with permission, you did it permissibly, but not with Bezdin's permission, so then you want Chayv Korban, which sounds a little bit, counterintuitive. That you did it with two aidim, you're more Chayv Korban than if you did it with one aid. And the reason is because if you had one aid, then you're relying on Bezdin. You were going under the shield of Bezdin, under the wings of Bezdin. So then you're not Chayv Korban because Bezdin told you. But if there are two aidim, which sounds even better, but it's a mistake. The Maisa was a mistake. Just to point out, just to zoom out a second, a person did something because he had two aidim that said you're allowed to do it. And the Maisa that was a mistake, you Chayv Korban. Means a lot of times we think that if I was allowed to do it, so I didn't do anything wrong. The Torah says you're allowed to rely on two Eidim. I think in many cases like this, the Torah says you're allowed to rely. Yeah, but that means that you're allowed to rely. Right. But that doesn't mean it's 100%. But the man said he made a mistake.
It also was a mistake.
No, but over there, since you got Bezdin's permission to do it, so you're going with Bezdin, so you're not Chayv Korban. They'd be Chayv Korban if most of Am Yisrael made a mistake. But if most of Am Yisrael didn't make a mistake, it was a psak. But it wasn't something that affected all of Am Yisrael. So then they don't bring a korban, but you also don't bring a korban. The mice we don't pass like this Mishnah. We'll see later. We hold that Yochid Shas Al Piyah was Bezdin is Chayiv. We don't pass like this Mishnah that he is Chayiv a korban, even if he did it with Bezdin. Only if it's a Paralam Dava, only it's a case where the Bezdin the mice Am Yisrael did it. But I would say Yochid Shas Al Piyah was Bezdin. Be passing not like our Mishnah that you are Chayiv a korban, but our Mishnah that holds that a Yochid did Al Piyah Bezdin is Pater. So it says the difference if it was one aid or two aid. I'm just saying a side point, just the point of interest, that even though you have full permission to do what you did, you had Eidim. I think also if you had a robe and you had a chazaka, you had everything. Well, the Maisi, you came out, you ate chaylev, so you Chayv Korban. Even though you were allowed to do it. But if it comes out that you made a mistake, you are Chayv Korban. Behold, you are Chayv Korban. You are Chayv Korban, yeah. Okay, so that's what the Mishnah said. Nisapi Bezdin Teitzei, and she's not Chayv Korban. That's the v'chulu here. She's not Chayv Korban because she did it under the auspices of Bezdin. But if there were two Eidim, so then she is Chayv Korban. Amaziri, less lamaslisin with the Tani Bei Midrasha. We don't pass like our Mishnah because there's a brayso that was said in the Beis Medrash, and that brayso of the Beis Medrash is going to override the Mishnah. The Tani Bei Midrasha. This very interesting still here. Haru Bezdin Sheshaka Chama. Bezdin said that it's sunset, and you got to be, let's say whatever, it's Shabbos is over. And then it'll be so Zorcha. Less than the Maslistim with the Tani Bei Midrasha. Kama. The Tani Bei Midrasha. It's like as if it would say less than the Maslistim because we found another Mishnah, as we learned in the Mishnah. So less than the Maslistim, we don't pass like our Mishnah because there's a Tani Bei Midrasha. What is the Tani Bei Midrasha? The following, it says in the Bryce that they learned in the Beis Medrash. These are the words of the Bryce. Maybe I didn't highlight anything yet, but let's try it. Haru Bezdin Sheshaka Chama Ulabasof Zorcha Ein Zoharo Elatos. That's what the Bryce seems to say. Bezdin said a psak that Shabbos is over, and then the sun shone. It was cloudy, whatever. They made a mistake. So is that called a hara that you did it Al Pi Bezdin? And you can say that Bezdin told me that I'm allowed to do malacha, so I don't bring a korban chatas. They bring the korban chatas. No, that's not called a hara. That's called a tos. That's called there's a mistake. There was a mistake in the Metzias. They made a mistake in the Metzias. That's not called a psak. Someone said a very interesting there's a question about the calendar. The calendars we have nowadays, there's a better calendar they made in the past couple of years. Itma Labina, the ones you see in most places. It's a updated calendar. And the old calendar, he says there are mistakes over there. So even if there's a mistake in the calculations, it wasn't a question in halacha. It was a question in the calculations. The math was a mistake with the math. How to translate the Arab way of the Arab clock to the European clock. So they're a couple of minutes off. So people were hesitant in changing to the updated calendar because there was already a psak. But this Gemara says that a psak that it's a mistake is a mistake. It's not called. It's not a mistake. It's not called a mistake. A mistake in psak. It's a question of messias. It's not called a psak. That's what the Gemara seems to say, and therefore the Gemara seems to say over here that the Bezdin said that she can get married because her husband died, and then the husband comes, here I am. So it's a mistake in the messias, and therefore it's not called a psak at all. It's not called a psak.
Okay, for some reason, usually we're not seeing documents when Shabbos is over. You know, like Shabbos is over 8:27, so they start higher at 8:27. For some reason this week we started 3 minutes over. Okay, so somebody came in and asked me what time Shabbos was over, and I looked on the thing and I said 8:24. We started 8:24, and he walks out and the guy runs over to me. He says, "Wait a second," and he runs to the counter. He says, "It's 8:27. The guy could be Chal Shabbos." You know, so he ran after him, and he caught up. Yeah, he's feeling him. No. The guy made a mistake. It's 8:27, and I said, "Thank you so much. You know, you did right." Because 3 minutes. Taking out cigarettes at 8:24. Nice.
So this is the Gemara that if they made a mistake in the Metzia, so it's not called a psak b'chlal. And therefore, the case over here that they said that you're allowed to get married because the husband died, and the husband didn't die, so it's not called a psak. And therefore, they would be chayiv v'chatas because you can't say Bezdin paskin. I wasn't relying on a psak of Bezdin. There's a mistake. Bezdin says Metzia, says not a psak. Yes. So we're saying there's not a mistake in Metzius. There wasn't a mistake in the Metzius. They had a psak. There was halacha. They made a mistake in the halacha. But if they're mistaken what the Metzius is, so that's not the real. That's not. It's not. Yeah. All these cases, the whole Bezdin is always the lachar with the big Bezdin, and it's not called a psak when it's a mistake. When the issue is the Metzius only. They want to know is it daytime, is it nighttime? If they would have said that is let's say halachically is nighttime considered shki or seisek chavim? That's already halacha. Like what's considered night? But here the question was, did the sun go down? So they can't make up psak. The sun went down. The sun didn't go down. That's not called a psak b'chlal. So I think the way I understood is that not that Rav Nachman was arguing on this brayso. So the brayso also agrees. He agrees Tani B'Ei Midrasha that if there will be a psak about sundown and it wasn't sundown, so it's not sundown. It's not called a psak. But he says in our case, in the Mishnah, our Mishnah is not just a mistake in the Metzias. Our Mishnah is considered a halacha. That they said that you're allowed to rely on the Eid Echad together with the Daika Mitzvah that the woman is going to be careful. That's a psak that they're saying, are you allowed to rely on it? It's not a question if the husband is alive. They're not coming to say is the husband alive, and they said we know. They don't think we know. They said that there's enough evidence that you're allowed to rely. That is called the psak. You relied on the psak that you're allowed to rely that the husband is there. I'll prove to you that it's called the psak. My time, how come in the whole Torah Eid Echad is not enough? Here Eid Echad is enough. That means Rabbanan are not saying that we're paskening, we're saying halacha that here there's enough evidence to rely. As Rashi explains, because together with the fact that we'll say daika mitzvah, that since we make a lot of consequences for this woman, so we'll rely that she's going to investigate well. So the Rabbanan are saying the shikul adas that it's enough to rely. We're not saying that for sure he's alive. The Bezdin doesn't say we know for sure that he's alive. We're saying there's enough evidence to say that we can assume that he died, that he did. I'm sorry. They're not saying that we know that he died. We're saying we have enough evidence to assume that he died, but not that it's saying the Metzia. So the issue is a halacha issue. Amar Rava, but Rava argues and says that it is considered a mistake. Amar Rava, the word Torah we're taking to mean like a Metzia. It's not a question of a halacha right or wrong. It's a question of a Metzia, what the Metzia is. So Rava says, I'm going to show you that this is considered a mistake. The ilu mistake in Metzias. The ilu however bezdin b'chei dam letera v'had chazu time l'isura ki hadri v'amri letera lo mashkichin alahu v'ilu hacha da'asa edechad shavina asu trei azarna. I'm reading a lot, but we'll get back to it. Ki hadri asa edechrina shavina lo. My time la mishum the toes. All this was Rava's explanation to prove that it's a toes. So I'm saying a pshat that I can't. The whole sugya is a difficult sugya. Like it's not easy reading. I'm trying a pshat. I'm not sure that I'm right. But he's proving that here we do look at it like a Metzias issue, because by halacha, the mechanics work different. Let's say Besins had a reason to say that chaylev and dam is also it's chayv koros to eat chaylev and dam.
In other words, they said this chaylev and dam is.
They said that it's mutter. For some reason, they thought they had some svara to say chaylev and dam is mutter, which is wrong. And
I thought
then
it meant that they saw this.
this particular
fat, and
this
they said
case,
This fat isn't chaylev.
this case, a certain case they'd say that this is not chaylev, this is mutter to eat. Not that they forgot the pasuk in the Torah, they know chaylev and dam is also. This is not also. This is mutter. But then how the chazu time of then they saw a reason to think that they're wrong and it's usher, made a mistake.
Mhm.
If they would come again the next day and say the same thing that they said before, they come back with not to have a new reason. I'm saying Pshat, I think it's true. I saw some svarim saying like that, some Achrona, that they come and say the same thing that they said in the originally, that there should be mutter for the same reason. Not that they have more reasons to say it's mutter. They said something, then they said Rashi calls it like halash. They said some kind of weak reasoning that it should be mutter, and then they realized no, this is a mistake. It's usher. And then they come back with the same thing that they said the first time. So we're not going to listen to them, of course. And here,
We do not
we don't pay attention to them.
pay attention.
What would be the case? Over here, let's say to be an Eid Echad. An Eid Echad came and said that the woman's husband died. And we permitted her to get married. And then the husband comes, here I am. And then happens even another case. Rashi seems to talk about the same case, but I'll say a different case. Another case happens that Eid Echad comes, that a woman's husband died. Do you rely on him?
A different Eid
Yeah, it happened, a new story.
So, yeah.
What is Shari-
Why do you rely on him? We saw that we were wrong. We relied on Eid Echad with the Daika Mitzvah, and then we see that it wasn't true. That even though we said that Eid Echad, then for sure the woman's going to investigate well enough, so many consequences, but we saw that it didn't work.
Yeah, but in one case they work, but
But,
in a new case. then we-
But it's the same, but we're going back to the same svara again. Means we had a svara that, what's the svara? How can we rely on an Eid Echad that a woman can get married? Because we say, Eid Echad, and so many consequences, the woman's going to investigate. Nice svara. But it didn't work. We saw we were wrong. No. So how come we're going to still be stubborn and keep going with that svara? We see that it's wrong. We see that it didn't work. The Gemara comparing it to this case. They said it's for a chaylev is mutter. They found that they made a mistake. And if they say again the mutter, we don't listen to them. Here they said that the Eid Echad is enough reason to rely that
Which
she can.
Sharini told me?
What's that?
Sharini told or Shrina Ito?
Which word is that?
Eid Echad, next word.
Sharina. We
They
permit it.
saw,
Asu tray. Two people.
Shrina means
We permit it.
Shari,
We permitted,
we permit it. What's that? To?
and then asu tray, and then two
Shrina is. and that's
We
the end of
permitted.
that, and then
comma
then
asu
they-
tray. Two people came. I said a case where the husband
I
came.
see.
Here it says,
Eid Echad, and they.
and we permitted her
and
to
they
get married.
permitted, And then came.
And then two Adam
and
and said that he didn't die.
forbid.
I said that Baal came. It doesn't say the case. The two Adam came and said the husband is alive. Asarna, and then we say it's asa. And Kyoda Rasa Eid Achrina, when another Eid is going to come, Shavina, we're going to permit her again. So Rashi says there'll be another Eid in the same story. But Rashi says not that he's contradicting the two Eidim who said that he didn't die. He's saying that he died now. He died at a later date. But the point is to say, I don't see a difference if it's the same case or different case. We saw that Asfara is not foolproof. We saw that in Eid Echad, even though the woman is going to get a lot of consequences, it's not foolproof. It's not a good Svara because.
Nothing is foolproof. Even two Adam. Okay, so a case that two Adam come and they say something, and we find out that they lied.
Are you going to say you're not going to trust two Eidim?
Next time two Adam come and
You're not going to say that.
We're not talking about lie. We're not talking about
We're talking about they made a mistake. It wasn't, whatever the case, it was lie or it wasn't true, whatever the case was.
Just not leaving two Adam, just.
So why is it different than the case before? Beznan is for to say Chaylev is mutter, and then they said no, it's asa. How come you don't go back and say that now? They say they think it's mutter again. How come you don't say that? The Gemara is saying we're showing a difference. By a Chaylev, that's called a psak, real psak.
We don't-
Over there, if they said something and then they said there wasn't a good svara, and you don't use the svara again anymore,
That would be,
that was called a psak.
that's a psak.
but over
That's
here,
the way- What did he call it?
That's called hora. That's called hora.
That's called hora.
But the
But
fact,
in the case of the other one,
But Chazara, that's.
but now we're saying that the
Because
second
they're
Eid,
Go back on their word. They admit that they made.
yes, but then if they come back and say the same thing over again that they said originally, what if it would happen? What if it would happen? If they'd come back and say back, lo mashkichin, we're not going to pay attention to them. They can't say that anymore
but
because
if a second Eid came, then we're saying that second Eid makes it 2 against 2.
no, a new case.
Huh?
It's not that the first aid is saying the same thing as the first aid said. Rashi says
Oh, I
something
thought that's why it was 2 against 2.
No, I don't think so, no.
Why does it say they allow?
because there's an echad is believed. I'm saying a different. I'll say
A
it a
whole
little.
new Eid came.
A new case,
after
yeah.
The 2 came and said,
Yeah, a
No.
different case. Let's say a different case. I'll tell you two cases. One is that first they spoke about Reuven died. Eid Echad came and said Reuven died.
Yeah.
Then two Eidim came and said Reuven did not die.
And then they answered.
And then another woman came into Bezdin, next case online, and Eid Echad said that Shimon died. Her husband, different lady, different case altogether.
A different case altogether. So what does that have to do? How does that prove?
What are we going to say? We're going to say it's mutter, she's not to get married because Eid Echad said so?
Yeah, like the first case.
No, but we made a mistake.
Yeah,
We
we
saw
already
that
know
the
that
two
we made a
Eidim came and said it wasn't true. It wasn't true the first time. It means as far to say you can rely on Eid Echad because the woman's going to have so many consequences. She's going to investigate. She's not going to get married without really knowing the truth. We saw that we were wrong one time.
We were wrong one time, but that we had only because 280 came and said.
Yes, came. So we saw
But
that
the
as far as
general
we saw
rule
that we
wouldn't
saw.
change.
Yeah, but we saw that as far as not a good swallow.
Because they're not to be trusted. They're not trusted.
So when it's at the end, when it says Sharinan, is that's a question?
No, that's it should be so you see different than the first case. The first case by Chayla that they
We wouldn't
permitted
listen-
and
yeah,
then
we
they
won't
answered
listen
you don't
because
permit her
it's
again.
Mishka.
Here you do permit it. Here you do listen to it again.
Here we listen to it again because over there it was only because of the Tilut.
Over there was a hara, my time. We showed the Torah so that this issue by over here we're talking about the Metzias. We're not talking about a psak. We're talking about the Metzias. The pshat, I'm
The fact
saying
that it's, okay, in other words, the Eid Echad comes and we still say, mutter. And it doesn't matter that we made a mistake before that because our score was correct.
but that the Gemara considers different than a chaylev, and here it's going to be considered issue of the Metzias and not the issue about the psak. Rashi, the whole Gemara goes about
The Metzias,
the Metzias. The issue was the Metzias, and
the Metzias changed, so that's why she's usher.
we're
because the
trying to
Metzias
figure out the Metzias. We're not making up psak over here. I'm not clear on the Gemara. I'm saying the best that I could. Not simple. I'm saying shaky pshat. Rashi the whole time seems to talk about is the reason why we matter at Eid Echad because the Eid Echad said so, or because we say that the woman is going to be daikam mitzvah, that she's going to investigate. If we had before in the beginning of the sugya,
Yeah.
the beginning of the paragraph, first the Gemara said Eid Echad. The Gemara tried to find is any proof that Eid Echad and the Gemara couldn't find it, and then the Gemara said it's not because of Eid Echad alone, it's because together with the fact that she's going to investigate,
Because of
or else all the
Ganassi.
consequences. And Rashi seems to juggle between that. Is that what the Gemara is talking about? That if it's the Eid Echad, then it's not Bezdin. If Eid Echad is believed, then it's not Bezdin. But if it's only because we trust the woman is going to investigate, then it's our psak. That is our shikul adas that you can rely on that. That's what Rashi seems to go through the sugya. Not so easy. Rashi does the point about the one aid and then the two aidim against him and then the one aid. I said just to make it clear that it's another case, a whole different case. Happens tomorrow, another case. 10 times it happens that we were wrong. We still go on and say Eid Echad is Neman until proven wrong. We're going to go with that psak.
And that shows that it wasn't.
That shows that it's not
It was the Metzias.
right, something like
Yeah,
that. Okay, just Rashi. I just want to be loyal, but Rashi he says a little different. He says it's the same case.
It was like a new
Reuven.
aid comes like the first day.
But but not that he goes to get on the side and it's 2 against 2,
No.
because the first aid said that he died in January,
And this one says. he
and
died
2
in
aidim came and said that in February he was still alive,
Yeah.
and this aid came and said that he died in March.
Oh,
So that he's not coming 2 against 2.
I see. So it is a new.
So it's like a new case. It's like a new case. I gave an example that it's a new case. No, a different aid comes and says that the husband died. Reuven, that you thought died in February, in January,
Oh,
he
so
didn't.
That's a new Metzias. That's also.
Yeah,
is a new
but it's
Metzias.
the same svara to talk about. Could we rely on Eid Echad? And we relied on Eid Echad. We saw we were wrong, and he's still relying on Eid Echad again. I made it simpler to talk about another case that it wasn't even the same person. Means even though we saw that svara didn't hold up, we still
Yeah.
continue going with it. What I said is shaky. I'm not standing strong behind the shot that I said. I'm trying to go through the Gemara.
Okay.
The Afra Beleza saw by the Tosu, Beleza also holds like those opinions that say that it's a mistake and it's not considered a psak. The Tanya Beleza Omer, Yikov Adin is a hor, V'tavi Chatash Meina. Beleza argues in our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says that if she got married with a psak of Bezdin, she doesn't bring a carbon. She doesn't bring a carbon. Our Mishnah. And Beleza says she does bring a carbon. That he says that the din should pierce the mountain, as if to say, you drill a hole through the mountain. It means that even though it's a big mountain, you go straight through it, and you do bring a chatas. Even though the Bezdin would say, how's Rashi explain here? When she got married with Bezdin, with one aid, you don't say that Bezdin paskin and she doesn't get a carbon. You go after omekat varim. You go according to the depth of the thing, means how true it is, and it's a mistake, and she has to bring a chatas. She got married, and she made a mistake. She has to bring a chatas. That's called chatas shmena, means a fat chatas, it's a chatas shmena. a fat korban chatas. But the point is to say that,
Pay well, pay the full.
yeah, full, yeah, that means she's
Well,
chayv
how's it been
chatas.
going through the mountain?
The mountain is the Bezdin. Bezdin is the one who says that she permitted her to get married. And that's the reason why she shouldn't have to bring a korban because she relied on them. But he says no, that the din pierces the mountain and she does have to bring a chatas. He's arguing on the Mishnah.
And it even has to be a big. It has to
Yeah,
be-
that's only like being dramatic. Make it
Yeah,
dramatic. Don't bring a scrawny chatas. Bring a chatas. But
Gesundheit.
what is the gesundheit? Right, that's what gesundheit. Now the Gemara is that explaining why that's a raya. Why does he argue? Why does Rabbi argue in the Mishnah? The Mishnah says it's mamish the same as the beginning of the Gemara. The Gemara spoke about this. That our Mishnah says he doesn't bring a korban chatas, and we are telling Bein Midrash there's such a thing as making a mistake, ta'ut, and over there you do bring a korban. It's not called you relied on psak of bezin because bezin is not what the metzias. So the same as the whole as Zeiri said, according to this Bein Midrash, the Gemara is discussing it. If Nachman was arguing on that, but now the Gemara takes the side of Zeiri and Rava, and here also the Gemara brings a raya. Rabbi Eliezer also is like that because he argues a brisa and he argues in our Mishnah and says she is chayv korban. What does mean chayv korban? You can't say I relied on bezin because there's a question of metzias. If you say that it's a question of metzias, because you can't say she relied on the bezdin. If she relied on the psak of bezdin, on my masi korban, why should she bring a korban? She relied on bezdin.
It says tu'ud isn't Messias, isn't it?
Ta'ut is the way. It's a mistake in metzias. It's not a mistake in the psak. It's a mistake in the metzias.
Hora is psak.
Hara is a
Ta'ut
psak,
is metzias.
and Torah means a mistake in the metzias.
Yeah,
I know, but it's not so simple. What I'm saying pshatim the whole time. It's not easy Gemara. So you don't have to feel like, for sure.
No, okay, but I just
I'm
wanted to
saying
try it.
that's how I'm explaining it.
Okay.
The word toast means mistake, but it means a mistake in Metzias.
In
In
Metzias.
contrast to Hara, which is a psak. And now the Gemara says, Rabbi Elazar also argues on our Mishnah for the same reason, because it's a mistake in Metzias. It's not a question of psak. The Gemara asks, the Dilma, now this Gemara gives away something over here that changes the whole sugya. The Dilma Kasav Rabbi Eliezer, Yochid Sha'asa by Ras Bezdin Chayim. Who says that Rabbi Elazar agrees to the whole principle over here? Everything's assuming over here that a Yochid Sha'asa by Ras Bezdin is Pater. What's it all talking about? There's a thing called Harayos. Mesechas Harayos, and that means that psak. Harayot means like Hara'ah, like psak. And the halacha is, usually we know about that by Parel and Dovar, Chatas Hakol, that a Bez made a psak.
They're the ones that have to bring it.
Right, they bring it, right.
Not the person.
Right. That's the case where most of Am Yisrael acted upon their psak. Bez made a psak. A certain thing is not Chol Shabbos,
Yeah.
and everybody started doing it. Bezin said electricity is not Asar Shabbos, and
Yeah.
everyone started using electricity. And then Bezin said we made a mistake. You're not allowed to use it's a chayiv chatas. So they're the ones that bring the chayiv chatas, and that's called the Parel and Dovar. And when Israel doesn't bring it, the representation brings.
Yeah.
That's what. But what if Bezin made the psak, and not most of Am Yisrael did it?
But-
Well,
but
one
no,
person
but-
did it. One person they heard the electricity. Everyone else didn't use electricity, but one
Oh,
person
Rabbi
did.
Eliezer holds
So that's
peace.
called Yachid Shasa Baras Bezdin.
Ah.
So the Bezdin is not going to here. The Bezdin is not going to bring
Yeah,
a korban.
that's not
The
word.
Bezdin only brings a korban when most of Am Yisrael acted upon their psak, and here Bezdin, the people did not act upon the psak. Only Yechidim.
Why does it say Rabbi Eliezer?
The arm was smart enough to know that's not.
No, they didn't. They didn't do it. They didn't have
They
any.
just didn't do
They
it.
didn't have any reason to do it. Whatever. They didn't need
I thought
electricity.
everybody knows that, no?
Holds
Only
what?
Rabbi Eliezer?
Holds.
If the minority acted on a hora of the Beis Din, which was incorrect,
Yes.
everybody is involved with it.
No. Our Mishnah said not only that. Our Mishnah said that the woman who acted upon the hara of Bezdin is pater.
Okay.
And the Mishnah is going like our Mishnah is going like
It's
that.
going like that, but
And
maybe
now
he's
Rabbi
holding-
Eliezer argues, it says she is chayv korban, and the Gemara says, you know why she's chayv korban? Because it wasn't a psak, it was a mistake, it was a Messiah's mistake. And the Gemara is saying, who says maybe the reason Rabbi Eliezer argues is because he argues on the whole halacha and he says that a yachid,
No,
even
it's
if,
called a hora.
yes,
Hora means
yes,
psak.
yes, even if there's a machlok, because even when it is a psak, means there are two sugis going on. One is a yachid, well, a real psak, nothing to do with the Messiah, a real psak,
Yeah.
and a yachid acted upon the psak of Bezdin, which was wrong, and not most of Am Yisrael did the mistake. Only Yechidim did it.
Yeah, that's hora.
That's hora,
Yes.
and it wasn't a rabbim, it wasn't a whole tzibur,
Yeah.
and Bezdin's not bringing a
And
korban,
Rabbi Eliezer says
And
that
does-
she's
and does-
high.
and
That
does
person is high.
right? So why is that so? Why is that so? Is it because Yachid Shasa Baras Bezdin is chayiv? Then it has nothing to do with Asugi. Asugi is coming to say that there's no hara, it's a mistake. It's a mistake in the Metzias.
Mhm.
So the Gemara is saying there are two sugis here. We're saying till now that Yachid Shasa Baras Bezdin is pater, but this is not called a hara; it's called a mistake of Metzias. And the Gemara is saying, you don't see Rabbi Eliezer holds like that. Maybe he holds Yagz on the whole Yisod. He holds that Yachid Sharas Baras Bezin is Chayiv. So you have no proof to what you're saying, that even if you hold Yachid Sharas Baras Bezin is Potter, here it's Chayiv because it's not called a psak, it's called a mistake in the Metzias. So who says Rabbi Eliezer holds like we're saying that it's a Toas in Metzias? Maybe he does holds that Yachid Sharas Baras Bezin is Chayiv. The Gemara says, he shouldn't have used that terminology that repairs the mountain. There's nothing that repairs the mountain. He holds that he yogs on the whole Yisod. He says that Yachid was Bezin is Chayiv. That means that really it should be Potter because Bezdin said so. But no, here we go through the mountain. Why? Because it was a mistake in Metzias. That's the end of the sugya. Just to zoom out a second, we paskin Yachid was Bezin is Chayiv. We do all like this. Means the whole sugya is not relevant to us because our sugya is going that if one did, if everybody did. Only question of majority or minority.
Okay.
If a majority of Am Yisrael did it, then Bezdin is Chayiv. Then Bezdin brings the korban. Nobody else brings the korban. Bezdin brings the korban. But if most of the majority of Am Yisrael did not, does the Yachid bring a korban? So Amish, and we paskin against Amish, and we paskin like the Gemara says over here. Yachid Shas Baras Bezdin is Chayiv. The Gemara says Rabbi also holds Potter. We paskin Yachid Shas Baras Bezdin is Chayiv. I'm just saying what halach is. Halach l'maisa, we hold that Yachid Shas Baras Bezdin is Chayiv, even though you're relying on the Bezdin. Yeah, look in the, it's highlighted. It's highlighted. Yachid Shas Baras Bezdin Chayiv.
Yeah, so if you hear that using electricity on Shabbos is mutter, don't do it because most people probably won't do it. Get ready to bring it to if it turns out to be.
So what I'm impressed, and the whole thing, what I'm impressed about is that people think that if the rabbi said so,
then it's okay.
then it's okay. And if even if he's wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong.
But that's only if it's a majority.
That's even that. Also, even if it's the majority, there's a chatas, but the Bezdin brings the chatas. But there's a mistake. There's a vera that happened. There's a vera that happened over here. Here too. Even if there are two Eidim that came, like our mission says, they were allowed to do it. By all means, you're allowed. Two Eidim came and said testimony. You're allowed to rely on that. But you want to know afterwards, you are chayiv a korban. But I asked Rabbi Shalom Vormasa, so he said that it's not called the onus, even though you had all permission to do it. You had a robe, you had a chazaka, you had Eidim, everything.
It's not called onus.
It's not called onus. Onus means they forced you to eat it. No one forced you to eat it. No one forced you. No one forced you. If they try to shove it down your mouth, then you're not bringing a korban. If they took chaylev, they shoved it down your mouth. You're screaming. So then that's called the onus, and you're not chayiv a korban. But if you made a mistake, even if you had a justified, legitimate, and tomorrow you'll do it again. You'll not kosher and the Eidim and 10, 25 stamps of approval. But there was a mistake. Lamaisa was a mistake. Lamaisa, there was wrong. It was treif. So it is considered an aver. It's aver b'shogeg, but it doesn't mean that's not a reason to bring chayiv matas. I think it's a big chiddush to people.
Seems to conclude that the miyut that goes according to and makes a mistake, goes according to the base and makes a mistake, they don't bring the korban.
Right, the Gemara goes not, but we hold chayiv. The Gemara is going even if you hold Yachid Shas Baras Bezdin is Potter, but if it's not a question of Allah, it's a question in Metzias, so then also you can't say I relied on Bezdin because the Bezdin doesn't have a psak, but there's just a question of Metzias. Did the sun go down? The sun didn't go down. This is a Metzias thing. This whole sugya has to do with all the Metzias questions. Is it called a psak by Bezdin? It's not called a psak. That's how I was talking about the calendar, that you can't say that Rav Tukachinsky said a psak. It's not a psak. He said that the sun came up. The sun didn't come up. People, that's to point out that people, I think most of the minyanim by the Kosel, they still go with the old calendar. They start nates 2-3 minutes before the time. And they say because Rav Tukachinsky said, but the sun didn't come up yet. It's not so. I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't change. Only 1 minyan over there. I think 1 minyan. They start like a minute. How do you hear? What does he say? Tilot, and then he starts another 30 seconds later. Everyone's down Shemon Esrei ready for a minute and a half, and then he says Tilot. So that minyan, I think, is going according to the Zman that when the sun really rises. Maybe there's a machlokus of some sort, but there's a machlokus in halacha, and then there's machlokus in Metzias. So there's no such thing as if it's the Metzias, it's not so. A psak doesn't do anything. It's not called a psak. Okay, next subject. So next subject. The Mishnah said that if Bezdin said whatever the case was that 1/8 came that her husband died, then Bezdin said you're allowed to get married, and instead of getting married, she kilkala, she did an avera, she had relations in an avera way, but she didn't realize that she's Eishes Ish.
She was told she'd be getting married. Right?
She was told she'd get married, and instead of getting married, she was Mazana. Then it
Before
comes-
she got married.
She had relations.
Oh,
Instead of getting married, she had relations. And she figured,
Before
I'm
the
not,
psak?
the psak was she can get married. How do you get
and then she
married?
started having
Then she had
affairs.
affairs. And then she finds out that she's a married woman. She didn't mean to do that. She wanted
Then she
that
found out she was a
she-
married woman.
because the husband came back.
Whoops.
So
That's no better then she can, then she can get married, so she could technically get married. Just go
So the
back to
Metzias is
you can
different.
go
So we
back to
call
the-
that Metzias?
because
no,
she
no,
can
no.
get
They go
married.
back. We're
We're done
still
with that.
we're done with that.
Okay.
She thought that her husband died because Eidechel came said her husband died, and she's not to get married. Doesn't say you may get married. Instead of getting married, she had an affair with somebody, and then the husband comes.
What happens to that?
What?
Is that an affair?
I'm giving you an answer.
She's a married woman. She's
No, when she was told she could get married
yes,
and she had an affair,
yes.
if the husband really was dead, did she? do
That's called like
anything wrong?
she's a penuya. She's an unmarried woman. She's an unmarried woman. That it's not the great thing to do to have relations without getting married,
not an
but it's
affair.
not a married woman.
It's
It's
not
a-
a married
It's
woman.
not a married. It's an unmarried woman.
So she can
unmarried.
technically go back to the husband, the original husband.
Why could she go back to the original husband? She's a married woman that had to.
Yeah, but she didn't get married. in between.
So what? She had an affair with somebody. She's a married woman.
Yeah, it's not married.
She was married.
She was married. If he's
Oh,
alive,
you-
she's
you're
married.
supposed to be holding it
She
as-
had the husband came back. Here I am.
But if he's dead, she didn't do anything. She didn't do anything
that's
good,
what
but
she
she didn't.
She didn't do anything.
wrong.
She didn't do anything very serious.
Yeah,
She did a
okay.
small. How do you call it? A claim out there.
A claim out there.
Yeah, gross out there, isn't it? Claim out there.
Okay.
So here the Mishnah said here the whole issue was for sure. This was she was a married woman that had relations out of marriage. That doesn't make a difference with marriage. There's no marriage to the other husband, no second husband either. But she didn't do a proper thing.
Yeah.
And that the Mishnah says as far as the Chayv Chatas means the Mishnah is going that Yachad Sabah Bezdin is Pater. So if she would have gotten married, the Mishnah says she'd be Pater from Machatas. She has to get divorced and all those 25 things, all the consequences. But as far as a Kabbalah Chatas, she's not Chayv Kabbalah Chatas because she did it under the permission of Bezdin. But then the Mishnah says, but if she was Kilkala, she wasn't married, she didn't get married, so Bezdin never gave her permission to be Stam Mizana. So then she will be Chayv Chatas. You can't say, I did it under Bezdin's permission. Bezdin said get married. Bezdin didn't say stop having an affair. That's why we learned the Mishnah. But not a Gemara opens it up. My Kilkala. What does the word Kilkala mean over here? What kind of Kilkala did she do? Kilkala means like she did a bad thing.
Yeah.
What did she do bad? Rabbi Elazar Amazinsa. Like we said, we learned that Rabbi Elazar, that she had relations with a man.
Without getting married.
Without getting married. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, no, only if it was a Chayv Lavin. Almana L'Kohen Gadol, Busha V'Chlusa L'Kohen Hedyot, only if it would have been something that even though she thought she was not married, but she shouldn't have done it anyway because it's Mamash
She
Allah.
had an affair with the Kohen Gadol.
She was an Almana, right? And she had an affair with the Kohen Gadol.
Yeah.
And
that's the love.
that's the law. She shouldn't have got married either fair or she got married, but she knows it's a law. The best never said you could do this. You went against the law. Even according to what you thought that you're not married, but you're a Almana, you're a
an
Grusha.
almana or you're a grusha.
So your mamish did a law. So the best never gave you permission to do that. So therefore you are Chayv K'Korban. But
It's more, the based in, the Congo married his own. I mean,
she's really an Ashes Ish. It's worse than all that. She's married. She's really a married woman. But the question is what she thought, according to what she thought.
Yeah, but I don't understand the grusha, the chalutza, because if he died,
She was a Grusha from before, from the first marriage. She has a long history already. She's a Grusha.
previously she
previous,
could
yeah,
be
yeah.
grusha,
Grusha, now she's an
free,
Almana.
but she's
And now
still
she
a
goes to
grusha.
marry a Kohen.
I see.
And
Or
what are you
that
doing?
somebody
Bezdin
did
never
chalut-
said do
or
that.
somebody did chalut.
Halitza from a previous thing, right?
Or even from this
Or
guy.
this guy maybe, okay, but
Okay.
okay. So now those are the two shatim in our Mishnah. What's the case of Kilkalat that she's Chayv K'Korban Chatas and she can't say I did it with Bezdin's permission, either Zinsa, Stam, to a Panui, or Isser Lav, like Amana L'Kohen Gadol, Gusha V'Lus L'Kohen Hedyot. What's the more explains about the arguing about? Mandam Zinsa, Kol Shken Amana L'Kohen Gadol. If the one, the Rebeleza says even Zinsa, she has to bring a Korban Chatas because she can't say I did it with permission because she had no permission. Kal V'chomer, if she was a Chayv Lav, and surely there was no permission. But Manda Amar Amana L'Kohen Gadol, Rabbi Yochanan who says that the case that she has to bring a Chatas is when it's Chayv Lavin, about Zinsa lo. If she only was Muzana, means that she just had an affair with somebody and she thought she's not married, but no, otherwise it would have been a kosher marriage if she would have gotten married.
Mhm.
Then she doesn't bring a Korban Chatas. She could say I did it with permission.
According to him, that's Rabbi.
That's Rabbi Yochanan. Why is that? My time at Dhamma, she could say, Atunhu deshavisin penuya, you told me that I'm not married. And therefore, even though it's not proper that penuya should have a relations, but it's not an avera. So you gave me permission. That's called you gave me permission. It's only when I did she did a chayv lavin, then surely they didn't give her permission to do that. But because she's an almana, she's a grusha. But if all she did wrong was to have relations without getting married, but according to what she knew that she's not married, she's allowed to. So that's not so bad. That's not called that Bezdin didn't give permission. That's included in the permission. Of course, Bezdin doesn't tell her to do that. You're supposed to get married if you want to have relations.
Yeah.
But it's not it's a klein avera, and that's included in the permission of Bezdin. And she could say that I relied. It maybe needs more explanation, but that's the words of the Gemara. And according to Rabbi Yochanan, only if it was mamish alav that she wasn't allowed to get married. Then Bezdin says we didn't tell you to do that. But if it would have been only a znus without being married,
There's no korban.
even though there's no carbon why, even though she was a Eshes and she should be chayv carbon, she can say she did it under Bezdin's authority. Tani Kivasa de Rabbi Yochanan, we have a price like that the case of the kilkala is only going to be when it was Almana L'Kohen Gadol L'Chayv Elaven. Aru Bezdin L'Nase, the kilkala Kigon, here's the price throws it in, Kigon, Almana L'Kohen Gadol L'Shavus L'Kohen Hedget. It gives an example that she had relations L'Chayv Elaven. That's the case that Chayav is B'Korban. The rest of the price is not our subject, but it has a machlokus here. How many kabbanas is she going to be chayv? For our purposes,
So the diak is that it had kigon.
Right. And that means that it was only right. If it would have been a regular kosher man that just didn't have marriage, that wouldn't be the case that she's have to bring a korban because she could say, I did rely on Bezdin's psak that I'm not married. That's what we need. The rest of the price we'll learn, but that's not, we finished already what we need. It says here, machlokes is she chayv every time she has relations or only for every man? The halach is usually that for a shogeg, if it's only one shogeg, one mistake, one helam, the helam echad, right? Say only chayiv one korban. Even if you did a lot of averis, you had a whole steak of chaylev, but you didn't know that it was chaylev. It's one mistake, so you only chayiv one chatas, even though you had a lot of kazaysin. If you ate a kazayis, then you found out, then you had a kazayis, you found out, then you chayiv for each one. But here, she didn't know. She didn't know that her husband was alive. She had many relations, so. Chayev ves korban al kol bio. Did Rabbi Lezer? V'chachamim omrim korban echad al kol ala kol. According one korban for all the relations. And since she didn't have any idea in between, she didn't find out in between. That's like the regular halacha. One korban for all. And according to the time of Rabbi Lezer, for every bia, every time they had a relation with whoever she had a relation with, the Amar L'Kohen Gadol, she's chayev the chatas because she's a married woman. Everybody holds that if she would have had relations with 5 different men, so then she's chayiv for each one. That means even if it was a helam echad, even if it was one, but either gufin muchalkin or bios muchalkos, that's machlokes over here, is it considered separate issues? The fact that each man, different men, that's even though it's considered one helam, but there are different men, so she's chayiv one for each man, or she's chayiv for every bia, even if she didn't know in between.
So why did they bring 5? Why wouldn't it just be if it's a different man? If it's the same man, you would assume that it's one. But if it were,
they could have said 2. Yeah, that's what I mean. So it says an example of 5.
What's this 5?
Why does it say 5? Why not say 2? Okay. Makes it extreme. But that maybe that's the example of the Gemara usually. That all that is not
It's not part of
our subject. It's good information, but it's not our subject. Chayev es korban. The rest of it here is not our subject till the end. But the point is that it says, if it would have been only znus, that would have been included in the permission. Wouldn't be chayiv. She said, I relied on Bezdin. No Mishnah. A little bit about interesting cases. And I'm not sure if they say that it's a case of yevamos or not. It has a little bit of yevamos. We had it before. What happened? The woman her husband went overseas and she thought that he died. People told her that he died, and then she got married. She found out that he's alive. That was the first Mishnah. A different scenario. We know that a woman, that if her husband died without children, so there's chayv yibum. If he died with children, then there's no yibum. Here's the case that her husband and son, they had a son. But the husband and son went to overseas. They come and told her that both of them died. Husband died first and then the son. What happened at the time of the death of the husband? There was a son. So there's no yibum. Right. So they tell her that's another way of saying that you're allowed to get married. You're not chayv yibum because your husband died with children. Afterwards the son died. But your husband died with children, so there's no yibum. So she got married. Didn't say she got married. Then they come and tell her. What?
It doesn't matter.
At the time of the husband's death, they had a child. There's no yibum, even if later on the son dies. Remember that? That we're not going to make a woman once she was free, then come back. No, she got married. Then they come and told her we made a mistake. It was a mistake. the son died first, then the husband. What happens if the son died?
Ba'achar.
This says, "Chiluf hayuad boy."
Chiluf hayuad.
It was opposite. What happened? When the husband died, the son died first. So when the husband died, he had no children. So there is Yibam. So what happened? She married out. She's Yivam Malashuk.
He has to have children when he dies,
Right.
even if they had children.
Even if they had many children, but at the
When
they
they
all
all
died in his
died.
lifetime. When he died, he had no children.
There's Yibam.
There's
I
Yibam.
forgot that. Okay.
I don't know if we had it.
Uh,
Maybe
we don't have it.
I
Okay.
don't remember if we had it to Farish. But here it says, so she married Yivam Malashuk. She shouldn't have married out. It was a mistake. She had a testimony, Eid Echad, whatever. But Teitze Bavlad Rishon V'Achon Mamza. She has to get divorced from her new husband. Why is that? Because she's Yivam Malashuk. She married out. There's a Yavam waiting. There's a Yavam waiting. She's Chayv Yivam. So she can't stay with this husband. Teitze, she has to leave this husband. And Avlad Rishon. Now, why is any Mamzerim over here?
Avlad Rishon is the
No.
husband that died.
So Rishon and Nachman is only one husband over here. Rishon and Achman is there's only one Yavam Malashuk. She married out. She married somebody from the street, right? She married somebody. So that person, there's only one person. But Rishon and Achman, the Gemara is going to say it means before she found out and after she found out. That's what Rishon and Achman means. That she got information that she can go free. Her husband died with children, so she married. That's called the first. And she, in the first year of marriage, she thought that her husband had died with children. And then she found out,
And she had a child.
and she had a child. And then they told her it's a mistake, that you are really a Yavama. But she didn't go to the Yavam. She didn't get a get. She stayed with this new husband. And the children they're going to have are going to be Mamzerim also. It means there's no difference if she knew, she didn't know. It doesn't make a difference. A Mamzer is a Mamzer if it was intentional, unintentional. The whole thing that it says here that Yivam Malashuk, the child born as a Mamzer is a Chiddush. We don't know like that because we'll see. There's only Chayv 11. The Yivam Malashuk is Chayv 11. So this line is a Chiddush that the kids born from a Yivam Malashuk is a Mamzer. Why should it be a Mamzer?
Right, it was on the Hara of the
No, why is it? No, Harua doesn't change. One sec, Mom should say that the case of Harua doesn't help that it shouldn't be a mamzer. They talk about a korban, but is the kid a mamzer or not?
the husband.
The husband,
didn't
Yivam
have
Malashuk,
a- Wait, the husband
Yivam
didn't
Mal-
have a child
right?
when he died.
And she's Chayiv Yivam, and she didn't go to the Yavam. She married out. Yivam
So the
Malashuk.
child would be-
So why is the child a mamzer? It's not Chayiv Krisis, right? She's not. No, she's not a Ishish. Yes, but is that a reason why it's not a Chayiv? It's only a Chayiv 11. She shouldn't marry out. So the Pasha says it's only Chayiv 11. So it shouldn't be a mamzer.
Oh,
So the Mishnah says he has a mamzer. So the Gemara's going to talk about it.
okay.
That's going to be the Gemara's issue. Why is the kid a mamzer? But the point of the Mishnah so far, it's good. It's not a Ishish. Why? She's not a Ishish. She's not a Ishish. It's not Chayiv Misa. Bezdin. It's not Chayiv Misa. It's not Ishish. It's a lamb. So if it will be Chayiv Koros and more, so then it's the kid is a mamzer. But it's only Chayiv 11. That will be the sugya. The easy way out is to say it's like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva holds Eish Mamzer Chayiv 11. Rabbi Kiva holds that even a Chayiv 11 also makes a mamzer.
Who makes a mamzer?
That's the easy way out. I'll say it. Our Mishnah is like that, and the Gemara is going to say that. That's going to be one of the pshatim. But the point, Rishon and Nachman is a little difficult. The most Rishon and Nachman is Rishon and Nachman. I mean, there's no Rishon and Nachman. There's only one person she married. She should have not gone. She should have not married out because there's a yavam waiting, and she married out. So what Rishon and Nachman means before she heard the news and after she heard the news. Before she heard the news, she thought she's allowed to marry out.
We're talking about the child.
No, we're talking about the child of the union. Yeah, the Vlad of this
The
union.
Vlad, before she knew, she gave birth before she knew.
She had
And she
relations.
gave
She had
birth after
relations.
she
She had relations before she knew, and she had relations after she knew. Yeah, birth. Yeah, relations and giving
The
birth.
child that she has before she knew is still going to be a mamzer, and after she knew, it's going to be a mamzer. That's what. the
Right.
Mishnah
Sure.
said.
Even though it was by mistake. Even the first one was by mistake. She had
Yeah,
well,
she said
every
she was
reason to
told
think
that
that
the child died after.
right. And there's no reason to stay for the yavam. She wasn't allowed to go to the yavam, so she married out. That was a mistake. But the kid Lamais is a mamzer because what Lamais was Chayv 11. By mamzer, you don't talk about if it was a fault or not. By korban, you could talk about that or kind of knas. But the kid's a mamzer, he's a mamzer, even if it was a mistake. And surely after she found out that it was b'mezid, surely,
Yes.
okay. Next case, new case. They told her that this story, husband and son went overseas, and they told her both of them died. The son died first. The son died first, and the husband died. What are they telling her in essence?
That she
That
has.
she has
to
to
be-
do Yibam. So she did Yibam. She married her brother-in-law, and then they come and tell her,
Oops.
I'm sorry, we made a mistake. That really, the husband died first, and he had a child.
Oh, so she's chayav.
She said, so there's
So
no
it's gonna
yibum.
be the same thing.
No, yeah, but it's very serious here, right? That she married the brother-in-law.
Oh, that's good.
The first case was she married out. That's
Oh,
bad.
Now it's,
This is
so
really
now
bad.
it's a riot.
Now it's a brother-in-law. She married a brother-in-law, and really it was really
It wasn't.
no
a
yibum.
There's no yibum. What's his name?
Teitze, Pavlad Rishon Vachon Mamzer, same thing over again.
Yeah.
Here we agreed. Here we would agree that it's a mamzer because it's chayv krisus to marry the brother-in-law. The first case was only chayv lav, and here it's chayv krisus. But the Mishnah knows both of them and was Rishon Nachman mean before she got the correction, after she got the correction. In the beginning, she was innocent. Afterwards, she was guilty. But there's no difference. Both of them are mamzerim. Even if it's a mistake, the kid's a mamzer. Third case. Amula Meis Balach. I'm up to the third case now.
Which line of the Mishnah?
1, 2, 3, like the fourth. But there's 2 dots over there. The first one on the line is Teitze. By the Yud of the Rambam.
Amrullah.
Amullah Meis Balach. They told her, your husband died. So she got married.
Mhm.
Benises. So she got married because her husband died. V'achkach Amullah Kayim Haya Umeis. At the time that you got married, he was alive. That was a mistake. It happened to be now he died. Now he's dead. But
So
at the
she was a married woman.
she was a married woman at the time, right? At the time she had a relation, she was a married woman. And now the Maisi died. Teitze, she can't stay with the new husband. Why? Because she had relations with him while she was a married woman. Even though now the husband died, if she would have waited until now, she could have married him now. But she got married to him, she had relations with him while she was still married. So she can't stay with him. Rishon, mamzer, Achron, Ena mamzer. Whatever she had relations with him before he died, before the husband died, is a mamzer because she was a married woman. But if she continued staying with the husband, the new husband, after she found out that she shouldn't, but it's not, but it's not a mamzer because it's not anymore. She's not a married woman anymore. There's a din that we don't let her marry the one that she had relations with, but it's not going to make the kid a mamzer.
Uh-huh.
Fourth case,
We don't let her, what was the last thing you said?
we don't let her stay with that husband because she had relations with him while she was a married woman. He's the boel. There's the baal and the boel that the one that she got married to. That's like tetzim mizeh.
Oh, right.
So she's not allowed to stay with him. But it's not going to be a mamzer. It's not a chayv krisa. It's not even a chayv lavin. It's
She can't stay with him, but the child wouldn't be a monster.
right.
Okay.
And the last case, Amullah Meis Balach, they told her husband died and she can get married. Finis Kacha, but she didn't actually consummate the marriage. She just had Kedushin. But she didn't yet have relations with this new husband. And the husband came running in before they had relations. She's allowed to go back to him. This we had quoted before. She's allowed to go back to the first husband, but she didn't have relations with the second husband. And there's no get even. She doesn't need a get from the second one. And even the second one, nothing happened. She doesn't need a get. And even though
Even though he gave a get?
even if he gave a get, we don't ask him for a get. We just tell her she goes back. Everything's over. The whole thing's over. There was no kedushin. It was a garnish. The whole thing's a mistake. And even though he gave her a get, like for good measure, like wanted to make sure he gave her the thing, gave her. There's nothing. It's not a get at all. And no paslam akuna. It doesn't make her that she can marry. It's not called a grusha. Sometimes you say it's like a get midrabanan. It's called reach a get, like it smells of a get, and she shouldn't marry a kohen. But this is nothing. This is a dvar b'telem. The get is nothing because she's not married to the second one. It's not a get. It's not a marriage. It's
We're
garnish.
talking about if the husband was Cohen.
It'll be if the kohen or the husband eventually is going to die and she wants to marry
Marry a Cohen.
marry a kohen. So this she's not divorced.
She's
She never got divorced. And the Gemara uses a drash to support this. As Zu Darash Abelazar ben Masya, Abelazar ben Masya dash in the following drasha to say that this get is nothing. It says Visha Grusha Meisha Lo Yikachu. It says that a woman who's divorced from her husband, a kohen may not marry. It says it's only called a get if she's divorced from her husband. What if she's divorced from someone who's not her husband? She got a divorce.
Just the
The
Isha.
Isha Grusha Meisha Lo Yikachu.
The Isha, Grusha, the Isha.
The Isha Grusha Meisha Lo Yikachu. A woman who's divorced from her husband, the kohen should not take. The pasuk is very extra. It says, it could have said a divorced woman, they should not take. It says a woman divorced from her husband, shall they not take? That means that it's only considered a divorce if it was from her husband. But if she got a divorce from someone who's not her husband, it's not called a divorce. It's a garnish. So here that the this to a Kohen. Even on a Drabbana level, the whole thing is Drabbana. This called Reach a get. It might be considered like it smells like a get. There's a drash to say that it's not considered a get at all. It's not her husband, so that it doesn't pass from a Kohen. The Gemara starts. My Rishon and my Yachron. In this case, I said the pshat based on the Gemara, but the words before are very vague. It says very ambiguous. It says Avlad Rishon Vachron. What's Rishon Vachron? There's no Rishon Vachron. There's only one person. This is the case of the Yivam Malashuk. She should have not gotten married because her husband had died without children, but she didn't know so. She was told the opposite. She was told that her husband died. There was a child still alive, but it was a mistake. So it says Avlad Rishon Vachron Mamzer. This Mishnah holds that Chayvi Lavin makes this case is going to be a mamzer, but the point is Rishon V'Achron. What's Rishon V'Achron? So we said it means before she found out, after she found out. The Gemara goes to explain that. If it means like the obvious pshat before the news came, but after the news came, this is the Avlad Mamzer. Does say Avlad Mamzer? What's the word Rishon? What's all that about? Because a mamzer, there's no difference when she found out. The Gemara says Bishum Tekaboy Lemisni Sefer. In the Sefer, there's going to be difference between the Rishon and the Achron. Over there is going to be and this says that they said that husband died, she got married, and then she found out that he was really alive at the time, but then he's dead now. So she wants to continue staying with the husband, and she's not allowed to. But if she stays with the husband, so the kid's not going to be a mamzer because it's not such a big avera. It's not the chayvei lavin. Over there's a difference between Rishon and Achron. Over there it says Rishon mamzer, Achron ain't a mamzer. So since it talks about the first and the second, before she heard the news, after she heard the news, before the husband died, after the husband died, Taninami Reisha, Rishon V'Achron Mamzer. That's why I use the word Rishon V'Achron, because it keeps in sync with the Sefer. When the Sefer is going to talk about the way, so it keeps the semantics, it keeps it, what's the word? Do you think should be symmetrical? It keeps it symmetrical. A symmetrical Mishnah that talks about Rishon V'Achron. Even though here, it's not really necessary to say it.
The first thing is to say, listening, Havdalad Mamzer, that's where you.
Yeah, make it simple. Say Havdalad Mamzer, period. The answer is, since in the Sefer is going to say Amula Meis Balach, and it says V'Achakach Amulei Kayim Haya Omeis Harishon Mamzer V'Achron and Mamzer. But over there, it is important to say Rishon Achron. Tananami Reisha Rishon V'Achron. Excuse me. Now it goes into the sugya. Why is the kid a mamzer? What's to happen over here? Yivam Lashuk makes the kid a mamzer. Tan Rabbana and Zudivrei Rabbi Kiva. Our mission is Rabbi Kiva talking. Shai Omer Ein Kedushin Tosim B'Chayv Lavin. Rabbi Kiva holds in general that Chayv Lavin, even if it's only Chayv Lavin, there's no Kedushin and the kid is a mamzer. Kedushin doesn't take effect. The Chachamim argue, they say that Chayv Lavin doesn't make a mamzer. Because it's only Chayv Lavin, Kedushin takes effect. They're not allowed to. But let's say I'm on a L'Kohen God, L'Kedusha V'Chalusa L'Kohen Hedyet, that Kedushin does take effect, and therefore the kid is not a mamzer. Rabbi Kiva would hold that Amman L'Kohen God. Rabbi Kiva would hold also that kid is a mamzer. So our Mishnah that says that the kid is a mamzer from Yivam L'Shuk is only going to Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara is a little bit medayik the words. Ein mamzer make me yevama. This word ein mamzer me yevama. They should have said ein mamzer mechav yalavin. Rabbi Kiva says yesh mamzer mechav yalavin, and they Chachamim say ein mamzer mechav yalavin. Why do they say ein mamzer me yevama? But that's interesting way to talk. It's only an example. But let me ein mamzer mechav yalavin. The answer is haytana hachtana Rabbi Kiva who the Amar mechav yalavin the share heavy mamzer. Mechav yalavin the grady lovi mamzer. That this Tana, this Chacham, there is a Chacham that hold that ein mamzer mechav yalavin. It's true, there is such a Chacham. But this Chachamim with the Bryce happens to be also going in the Shita of Rabbi Kiva that yesh mamzer mechav yalavin, but only mechav yalavin the she'er. Mechav yalavin the she'er means that has something to do with a relationship. It's a kind of a relationship that causes the chayv yalavin. But this chayv yalavin over here, Yivam Lashuk, is not because of she'er. It's not a relationship. It's not a blood relationship. There's only cases that have to do with relatives. There's chayv yalavin that are relatives, that are chayv yalavin that are not relatives. The Yivam Lashuk, she didn't have a relation with somebody who's a relative. The Yivam Lashuk, she's not related to him. Some kinds, like saying that arise, let's say the arise that are all called she'er, the ones that are chayv krisis, surely the ones that are going to be a sister, an aunt, all these kinds of things, that the mother, all these things are called she'er, they're called relatives. But the fact that a Yavam Lashuk is not because she's related to him, it's because she has a bond to the Yavam, so she's not allowed to marry out. So that's not called she'er. So Rabbi Kiva does hold, according to one Madhyam, Rabbi Kiva holds that chayv yalavin of she'er is a mamzer, and chayv yalavin that's not she'er is not a mamzer. That's what this Tana holds. Ein mamzer miyavama. You can't say ein mamzer mechayv yalavin because he holds yesh mamzer mechayv yalavin, but ein mamzer miyavama because it's not she'er. But Enochanami, there is a sheet that we hold like that ein mamzer mechayv yalavin at all. But this Brisa doesn't hold like that. This Brisa holds ein mamzer mechayv yalavin that's not she'er. But the chayv lavin that is she'er, that would be a relative, like Rashi says, anusa saviv. So then it would be a mamzer, according to Bakiva. Right, because it's not called she'er. It's not a relative. Even though it's a chayv lavin. He's dividing between chayv lavin. Chayv lavin she'er, chayv lavin that's not she'er. Yeah, but no, the one she's marrying out to a stranger. The stranger that she's marrying is not related to her. Someone marries a sister, and all of us they're called relatives. That's called she'er b'saro. But to marry out is not called. I think even the Aisha sister also is not called Aisha sister and have relations with a stranger is not called she'er. Okay, Gemara. So far we said she'er. So far we discussed that the reason why it should be a mamzer is because of Rabbi Akiva or somebody that holds chayv lavin. Chayv lavin makes a mamzer. Now Gemara is going to open up a new subject, which what we mentioned a long time ago, someplace there, but Memteh, something like that. But now it's opening up again. Amar Yehuda Amar Rav. Minayin she'ein kedusha tovsan b'yevama. This is mamish extreme. He says even according to Rabbanan that say that kedusha tovsan b'chayv lavin, and the kid is not a mamzer, but a yevama is different. This is mamish how do you call it? Mapecha. This is a
Kedusha means that they were engaged.
kedusha. No, kedusha. No,
Kedusha means a marriage.
yeah. There's no engagement is nothing. Erusin is kedusha, yeah, but not the erusin of today. Erusin in the modern Hebrew means engagement. You have to erase
What's
that.
the one that we just had that the woman was betrothed to somebody?
Yeah, that's kedusha. That's marriage. That's marriage. That's Ariat Mukudeshesli.
But you never slept with him.
She's called Arusa Mukudeshes Arusa.
That's called marriage.
That's called. I don't know what the word marriage means. Does marriage mean they gave her a
Kedusha means she
ring?
didn't have relations.
Kedusha, right? But he gave her. Okay, but
That's
not.
called engagement.
No, engagement means that they said let's get married.
Right, never.
What's called engagement? When they have an engagement party and they say let's get
What
what?
is kedusha? She's usher to people.
Ariat
She didn't-
Mukudeshes. No,
I don't mean Hargit or Kedusha. I'm talking about back then. Kedusha means that she's usher to everybody, including her husband.
is that
She's
called
married,
engagement? Is that
she's
called
really-
engagement?
No.
That's called. He gave her a ring and said Ariat Mukudeshes thing.
So now she's a wife.
She's an Ashes ish, but yeah,
She's an Ashes ish without having relations.
right.
Okay.
And if anybody has relations with her, she's really married to the guy. But they're not supposed to live together with each other until they have Shabbat Brachos, until they have chuppah. Has to be like an official.
But in terms of if the guy was died and then this happened and then the guy's alive, she's mutter to a kohen.
What happened?
She had kedushin because her husband died.
Because her husband died. What do you mean to say?
She was married to somebody and he died without children.
Yes. Which case are you referring to that we just had? Which case are you referring to that we just had?
It's up here. It's in the Mishnah. It says.
Yeah, she was married. She got a ring from somebody. He said, "Ariat Mukudeshesli." And then before she went to the yichud room, the husband came running in. The first husband, the real husband, came running in. Stop. She got a ring. That's called iskacha. She got a ring from the second husband, and the first husband comes.
Really married.
Right, but it's not really married because she's a married woman. You can't marry a married woman. Or the other case was that she was married. She was really married. She thought her husband died.
She
And
thought the husband died.
And she got
We're
it.
not talking about Yibum here. Maybe he
No.
didn't have any brothers or something.
No,
We
no.
don't care.
Her husband died. Everything's fine. Her husband died. She wants to get married.
And so she did kedushin.
And then in the wedding hall, the real husband comes running in. The first husband that was dead. He says, "I'm not dead. Stop."
After the kedushin.
Yes,
So you're saying kedushin means she's really married
but she's not really married because
because it turns out he's really alive.
right.
Okay.
But the word kedushin means that the chassan gives to the kala pruta shava pruta, a ring, and says Ariat Mukudeshes.
Okay. Fine.
So here the question is: a woman was Mukudeshes?
Yeah.
No, the other way. A woman was a yevama. She was a yevama. Her husband died, and she's on deck for yibum.
Yeah.
Shemeres yavam, and someone gave
Somebody.
she gave her a ring and said Ariat Mukudeshes. That's a chayv lavin. She's yevama l'shuk. For a stranger to marry her is a chayv lavin.
Okay. Even though that it has nothing to do with.
Even the Harrison level, not
Well, yes, and that's usually according to the regular klalim, kedushin tovsim b'chai v'lavin. That the whole thing that she's connected to, she's not a ishasish. She's only yevama. So that's a isser lav. I say lav that she's not allowed to marry out. And a chai v'lavin usually the klal is according to the chachamim. Kedushin tovsim b'chai v'lavin. Reb Kiva was saying kedushin tovsim b'chai v'lavin. The Rabbanan say kedushin is tovsim b'chai v'lavin. So we would say that the kedushin takes effect. That's what we would say. She needs a get, whatever, right? But Rav says a huge chiddush. And kedushin tovsim b'yevama. And the kid is a mamzer. That goes together. It goes together that if kedushin is not tofis, then the kid is a mamzer. So even though all chayv lavin and kedushin is tofsim b'chayv lavin, but yevama is different. Wonder is a wonder of wonders that even though kedushin is tofis b'chayv lavin, but by yevama not. Why? As a pasuk, shenemar lo siyeh eishes hames achutz ol izor. The pasuk on the pasuk means that the widow should not marry out to a stranger. Simple. But the more dashins lo sehei bo havaya l'zor. Osiyah doesn't mean do not. It means it should not, it does not happen. She cannot have havaya. The word havaya would mean to become, like it says, that it says when she marries somebody, she becomes somebody's wife. Here, she cannot become somebody else's wife. The Eishes Hameis cannot become somebody else's wife. It means it doesn't work. The pasuk is telling you not that you're not allowed to, it says it doesn't take effect. So Rav has a new drasha to say a chiddush, a bam chiddush, that kedushin does not take effect on a yevama. So to go back to our Mishnah, in other words, he's saying that our Mishnah doesn't have to be Rabbi Kiva. The Gemara says, our Mishnah said that a mamzer, Rishon, Sheni, that the Yevama l'shuk, the kid's a mamzer. So we said so far it's only according to Rabbi Kiva. But the Chama would argue. Now, he's saying that even according to Rabbanan, Yevama is different. And Kedushin, because of this pasuk, and Kedushin is not Tofas Mele, the kid is a mamzer. If they do have relations, the kid is a mamzer. That's the klal. Kedushin is tofes, the kid is not a mamzer. The kedushin is not tofes, the kid is a mamzer. Usually it's chayvi krisis. Chayvi krisis is not tofes kedushin. That's why the kid is a mamzer. And chayvi lavin kedushin is tofes, so the kid is not a mamzer. Here he says, even though it's only chayvi lavin, but yavam is different. Over there it says lo sihiyah. Doesn't happen, doesn't take effect. If it doesn't take effect, so the kid is a mamzer. So
if the kedushin didn't take effect, that means it was just news. Or what does it mean?
Yeah, but it's a news of something that yes, but it's not a pony about a
She's a married woman.
She's not a married woman. She's a zug kuka. She needs to be married to the yavam. Her husband died, but there's a yavam waiting.
Oh, there's a yavam waiting.
And there's a chayvila, and usually chayvila and the Rabbanan say chayvila is tofes kedushin, and the kid is not a mamzer. But this is the kind of a chayvila which is not tofes kedushin, and therefore the kid is a mamzer.
I see.
Shmuel says he's not sure. Shmuel Amar bani yoseinu tzricha get. In our poverty, she needs a get. What does that mean? I'm not sure. I'm not smart enough to know. So Rav says he's sure that she does not need a get because nothing happened. The kedushin didn't take effect. You don't need a get, and the kid is a mamzer. And like Lania's daiti, right? Lania's daiti. The poverty of my people say Lania's daiti with a lot. Sometimes they say it with a lot of They mean to say that I don't know, and I don't know. What should I do? I don't know. So Shmuel says I'm not sure, and she needs a get. As the Gemara says, Shmuel, I don't see a ish sameis either lav hudasa, either la tasba kedushin hudasa. How do you read the pasuk? You say that it means Losia she should not marry, and it doesn't mean Rav's drasha. It doesn't mean she may not marry. Or does it mean Losia? It doesn't take effect. So according to so he doesn't know. Since he doesn't know, so she needs to get misafik. Means he's not. He says like a suffik mamzer. He doesn't know if kedushin. According to Rav, you don't need to get because he says the kedushin doesn't take effect. If kedushin doesn't take effect, you don't need to get. If kedushin does take effect, you don't need to get. Shmuel says I don't know. He would say it's like a suffik mamzer probably. So it's already 12:07. Should we stop? Okay. So we'll stop even though we're getting behind. Okay. We'll stop here. Okay. We have put it on the bill. We have a running bill. Okay. That's your everybody. Thank you. We'll be back in 2 minutes with what? Pirkei Avos. Thank you.